Joining me now is Phillip Snyder of the Warner Companies. And for full disclosure, he's also my dad. Dad, great to see you. Thanks for joining us again this morning.
Hi, Jeff. Good to be with you. Thank you.
All right. I want to ask you about this because in a couple different ways. The first is there's a recent study that came out that said that millennials, so that's not my generation, that's a generation after,
hmm
probably in their 30s or 40s, are
hmm
actually underinsured when it
hmm
comes to life insurance. What's your reaction to that?
Probably probably a valid conclusion from the study. Although that's not a group that I typically would work with. I think it's not surprising given all the financial pressures people are under today, particularly young people. It's not surprising to me that that would be the case.
How much of the results of that survey, did the results of that survey tie back into financial literacy? So understanding, you talked about affordability. We'll get to that in a couple minutes,
hmm
but let's talk about being aware of life insurance and its benefits, why you need it, why you need to protect your loved
hmm
ones. So how much of it is just a lack of literacy about the different types of products that are out there?
Probably the largest part of it is attributable to lack of an understanding of the why, how products work, how you access products. Um, Today, they don't teach financial literacy in the schools, or generally that's the case. So these younger people, have to acquire information from other sources that could be through the internet, online, TikTok, for example. Um, but what we used in the past, which was schooling. We've had financial literacy in school, but most of what I learned as a young person was at home. It was transferred information. It was by observation. It was my parents teaching me things. I think a lot of that doesn't happen today in the same way. And so people are out in the world and they gather their information from the easiest source they can, typically online, and that's the basis on which they make their value judgments. But there are a lot of other forces at work beyond that,
Yeah.
obviously.
I'll ask you about that in a second, but I have to make the comment that I'm really surprised that you even know what TikTok is. That I'm assuming you're not on TikTok
No,
and
not
not.
on TikTok, but I'm aware of it. I mean, people get their information for the most part quickly online. Everything is quick today.
Yeah.
Everything is bullet points and summarizing everything. And family finances is not a simple subject. It's something that takes some time and effort and understanding. So
Yeah. I mean,
that all those factors contribute to what you're pointing out, that this group of people, I guess 30 to 45, are
yeah, it's somewhere around there. Yeah.
underinsured.
Let me ask you, what can people like in your industry? So you're a advisor,
Mhm.
insurance broker, however you want to define what you are. How can people that do what you do, the product manufacturers that create the products,
Mhm.
and the industry in general? I mean, you need insurance. Okay, let's be clear. We've gone through that before, but you need to protect your loved ones. This is hedging risk. This is hedging against the future. And the future
Mhm.
is eventually we're all going to die. So you got to leave something behind for your loved ones. So how do we do a better job collectively to educate people about life insurance, disability insurance, health insurance, all those other
Well,
benefits?
the industry, I don't think, does a great job at it. They advertise their name and things of that nature. They sponsor all kinds of things on TV and so forth. But that really doesn't speak to need necessarily. It just speaks to, it's a marketing effort, as it were. So I really think that we've got to do more in the community. I think the schools have to be involved. You got to teach that at a young age. You were, if you remember back in your school days, in the fourth grade when you were learning about finances and how to manage things and so forth. But that doesn't happen today, to the best of my knowledge, anyway. So we've got to find other ways to do that. Now, accessing insurance, the need for insurance, I'm not sure that everybody really even understands why they buy life insurance. You speak to it as though it was a natural thing that people would think of. But if you didn't come from a background where you were taught finances and family security and things of that nature and responsibility, then you're not going to be aware of all those things. You're going to have to get that information elsewhere, and it's hard to get good information in snippets. So,
Yeah.
um,
Hence TikTok, Instagram. So Dad, benefits. Let's just talk about benefits in the financial literacy context. So the
okay.
things that we're talking about this morning, where would you, where in the learning apparatus would you put this? I don't see this as a fourth or fifth grade conversation. Do you
No,
put
it's
it
not.
into the high school curricula? Where do you go with this type of information, or college?
I think you build it over time. So you start with simple things like you did in the fourth grade, and you build on that. But by the time you're in high school, you ought to have a pretty good awareness of how the value of money, how to save, what my expenses are going to be. Maybe you get an allowance, and so you learn to manage money. But I also think in college they should be teaching these kinds of things, and maybe they're not. I think that's probably not a universal statement that they're not, but in many cases they're not. So where do you get the information? How do you even know what your responsibilities are? I think one advantage, though, is that most of those responsibilities spring from a couple of sources. Either you have a family that you need to provide for, or you had debt. Maybe it's student debt. Maybe it's a mortgage, whatever the case may be. So those are clear indicators, should be, that losing my income through death is going to negatively impact other people, right? So that's why people buy life insurance, to avoid that. So I think that that's a start. But the industry has to do more. The schools have to do more. The way we communicate, everything's in a hurry today, as you know. So I just think we have to slow things down a little bit and start teaching some of these things to people. That I'm,
But do you think it's reasonable to think? I don't think things are going to slow down, Dad. I think things are only going to speed up. Now we have artificial intelligence that's, people can go to Chat GPT or some other
Mhm.
chat feature, chatbot, and get information. They don't even, so I don't think things slow down. I think we have to. I think the industry, my personal opinion, has to adjust to the flow of information and make information more available, but also in the context and in the form that people can consume it. Because we're not going to go back to the 1980s when I was growing, 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and there were, the Baltimore Sun delivered twice a day. That's not coming. That's not coming back. So I think,
Well, I think
go ahead. I'm sorry.
employers can help also. Most larger employers certainly provide benefits. They provide some life insurance and maybe some disability insurance and certainly medical and dental insurance. So that's a starting point. And maybe at the employer level, if people really understand what's available to them, what's being provided at no cost, what they can buy, I think that could help and educate people. But I really think that it's a big problem, and there's so much financial pressure on young people today. There's debt, there's a lack of understanding. All those things are there's not enough time so all those things are negatives that impact performance, the ability to buy insurance, or the willingness to buy insurance. There's a misunderstanding of the products. People don't really understand the products. And term insurance is easy. We all know that you pay something and you get a benefit. There's nothing else intrinsically in the product. I think if people better understood life insurance and some of the more permanent products that build cash, that would peak interest for them. So
Yeah.
I really think it's just a whole educational problem, and it's reflective of the way information is communicated today. So exactly how you change it, I don't know exactly. I think all these things make sense. They all need to, be a part of the solution. But it's kind of sad when you see a young person who doesn't own any insurance, but they should, at least from my perspective, they should. They got a wife, they have a mortgage, they have a young family, a couple of young children, and they have very minor amounts of insurance. So
Yeah.
I think it's a big problem, and you can't press a button and fix it. So
No, I think it's through repetition. Personally, my opinion, if anyone cares, is that it's about repetition and providing information in all different formats, not just in school, not just in college, not just in community college, not just in trade schools. It's got to be continuous and done almost on a daily basis so people can get tips and make it consumable. Dad, we're going to have to leave it there. Great conversation as always. Thanks for joining us. And I look forward to
I hope
seeing you
it
very
helped. I
soon.
don't know. We didn't solve the problem,
Well,
but
we're not going to solve the problem because two
no,
people can't solve a problem
no.
for a country that is $330 million, but we can generate ideas. Dad, I got to run. Thanks
All
for
right.
joining me.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Well, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we're back again tomorrow morning with another great expert and another great topic. You can tune in right here Monday through Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place, delivered directly to your email box. Check it out at our website.